Okay, welcome sa mga bagong dating. As of now, meron na tayong 50 participants. Alright. Welcome everyone. Thank you, lalo na sa mga 3 days nang nakakasama natin ngayon, ano? 3 days nang nagtsatsaga. Joke lang. Maganda lang ating ang ating series eh. Alam ko nag-enjoy kayo. Lalo na sa mga question and answer. Ready nyo na ulit mamaya. Outstanding ang ating mga speakers ngayon. Sila mga powerful sila, guys. Hindi naman sabi na pressure ko sila, pero talaga sila. Okay, 1 minute before we start. Okay. 1:05 na. Okay, sige, start na tayo. Okay, welcome researchers. So, the TRI presents you this Science Investigatory Project Talks or SIP Talks, a webinar series on research tips and orientation. Okay, so now we're on our day 3. Alam ko na most sa ating mga participants ay nanonood mula day 1 hanggang day 3 kasama natin ngayon. At kung mapapansin nyo mamaya, mapapatunayan nyo na totoo ang sinasabi ko kasi paganda ng paganda ang ating series. Hindi kayo mag-fail, hindi mag-fail ang expectation nyo ngayon kasi legit. The best sila, guys. Alright, so ngayon, please mute your mics as usual. Pero you can open your cameras kasi gusto namin na makita kayo, makita ang inyong mga beautiful and handsome faces, di ba? Para naman makita ng mga speakers natin mamaya na meron silang audience, hindi sila nagtotok sa mga mali namin, natutulog na pala kayo. Gusto lang pala ng certificate. Ay, hindi naman gano'n, no? Alam ko gusto nyo matuto, gano'n. Okay. So, ang topic natin for today ay robotics and all about invention. So, based sa title natin, alam kong nahinuha nyo na ang category natin ngayon ay robotics at science innovation. Okay. So, before we start, for our opening program, let's start off with a prayer. Okay, pray muna tayo. Sige, bubunot ako sa index card nang magpe-pray. Sige, pray na tayo. Pikit, paano ba mag-pray? Kapikit. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you again for giving us another chance, Lord, na makapag-conduct po, makapakinig, at makapag-host po, Lord, ng isang research series na webinar, Panginoon. Alam namin na lahat ng ito ay possible kasi you are with us at it's your will, Lord, na meron po kaming matutunan habang kami naka-quarantine at kahit na we are under this pandemic, alam namin na you are here with us, alam namin na sinasamahan mo kami, kaya meron pa rin kaming chance na mag-discover ng new things amidst ng nangyayari sa aming paligid. And I pray, Lord, na samahan niyo po yung mga speakers, yung audience, lahat ng naririto, Lord. Stay safe. Tulungan niyo po kami na maging safe, Lord, sa lahat ng sakuna na pwede pong mangyari sa amin. At tulungan niyo rin po kami na mag-focus sa pakikinig ngayong araw. Maging smooth din po nawa yung aming technical issues. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So, for our opening remarks, let's welcome Miss Adela Arenas. Okay. Yay! Nasaan na kaya yung clap sound effects natin?
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Again, on behalf of the team of the Researchers Initiative, we welcome you to our third session of the Science Investigatory Project, or SIP Talks 2020, a webinar series on research tips and orientation. So yesterday, we learned about the fundamentals of research in the categories of life and physical sciences, learning where do we explore, who do we call, and how do we conduct experiments in order to create a research that has a cause and an impact to our society. But today, we're going to hear that beyond knowing such steps, such ways, we have the technology to also invent new steps, new ways. Because research is not only for knowing or understanding. Research is also for creating or for innovating. Yun. That's all. So today, I hope we learn a lot from our speakers and gain motivation from them to take that path gaya nila. Kasi gaya nila, kaya mo rin, kaya rin natin as students to be young innovators. Thank you.
Yay! Background clap music! Alright, so let's start. Alam niyo naman na ang favorite ng ating webinar ngayon ay ang ating... Ayan yung bar. Ay! Nagpasilip na yung ating surprise na speaker. Ang ating favorite na Kahoot game. So as usual, go to this link kahoot.it and enter this code. Yan, kita nyo na. Yan, enter ang code. Okay. Ngayon, meron na tayong 11 players. Ang dami naman dito ng mga mga Korea boo. Stand day 6, day 6 guys. Kasama natin si Park Sojun. Oh, sumali talaga yung ating Wala, dito si Ma'am Bel. Wala ba diyang psychosoti? Oh, yan na. Meron ng psychosoti. Hindi ako yon. Kasama ulit natin si Jabba Miyumiko. Naalala ko siya kahapon. Okay. Kasama natin si Bongo. Oh, si Lito nandito ulit. Shoutout nga pala kay Lito, no? Ang ating very active and supportive na, Okay, 46. Hanggang 50 players na lang ang ating tatanggapin na tayo ay magsisimula na sa ating game. Sino kaya ang magtatap ngayon? Kahapon, sino bang nagtap? Pinutan ko na kahapon. 46 na lang. Wala na. Is this ISEF form required for all research studies? Form 1C, Regulated Research Institutional or Industrial Setting Form. Yes, no, or it depends. Okay. Sagot na tayo. Last 5 seconds. We got 23. We got the right answer. Okay. Bakit kaya yes? Kasi, according to the latest DepEd Memorandum of National Science and Technology Fair 2019 to 2020, Form 1C is one of the required ISEF forms for all the project in all levels of the competition. Bukod doon, bukod sa Form 1C, required din yung research plan, yung checklist for adult sponsor, student checklist 1A, research plan, pero hindi naman need i-attach yung research plan instruction, approval form 1B, at lastly, yung form 1C. Okay, so yung mga kasama natin dito na junior high at senior high, siguro may idea na kayo kung anong sinasabi ko. Ito yung mga forms, ISEF forms na kailangan for researches. Kung wala pa, makinig kayo sa research teacher nyo mga par. Next, tingnan natin ang ating scoreboard. Wow! Ang galing naman ni Juliet May. Third si Tsuyu. Next na tayo. Next question. True or false? The logbook of a researcher can be messy. Can it? Last 3 seconds. Okay. 19 ang tumama. 19 lang. Mas maraming mali ang sagot. Naku, bakit kaya? Sabi dito, bakit true? Kasi sabi din sa DepEd Memorandum of National Science and Technology Fair noong 2019 to 2020, nakalagay dun sa Section 2 ng Project Data Book na it can be slightly, hindi naman slightly, pero be a little messy, but be sure that the quantitative data recorded is accurate and that the units are included in the data tables. Make sure you date each entry. Yun. Kaya little messy lang. Kasi dun ka maglalagay ng mga nangyari sa buong research nyo eh. Kaya medyo imposible na sobrang ayos niya, di ba? So next, tingnan natin ang scoreboard. Ayun, natalo na si yung nanalo kayo si Juliet May, si Pepe, na ang top 1 natin. Wow, si Ma'am Bell dito. Next! Last na to. How long is the maximum time of presentation in DepEd Science and Technology fairs? 15, 10, or 5? Sa mga lumaban, alam nyo yan. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, marami namang tumama ang sagot. 5 minutes kasi DepEd Science and Technology fairs in the school, division, and regional levels limit the time of presentation to 5 minutes to be able to assess the researcher's mastery and knowledge of the research in a brief and concise manner. Ganun yun, kaya ganun. So, tingnan natin ang ating research podium. Sino ang third? Wow! Nananalo ata kapag sino-shout out. Oh, si Bake yun. Hindi to. Sino ang first? Ah, si Pepe. Congratulations, Pepe Gang. Alright. Okay. So, balik na tayo dito. Ngayon, may ipapakilala na ako sa inyo. Yung kanina ko pang pinapakilala. Kanina ko pa siya gusto ipakilala kasi sobrang galing nito, guys. So, meet our first speaker for session 3. So, you want to try robotics? A real legend in the field of student robotics worldwide, we have Miss Irish Daniel Morales to share with us her spectacular journey in conquering the walls of programming and prototyping. Miss Morales is an incoming BSMS Computer Science freshman of Ateneo de Manila University. She is known to not just compete, but also win numerous local and international robotic competitions, including the RoboRave and Google Code In. She is a grand prize winner there. So, interested to start your own journey in building intelligent machines? So, may papakita pa ako sa inyong video, guys. Ito, makikita niyo kung gaano siya kagaling dito. Okay.
October 2018 nang sumali si Irish Daniel Morales sa Google Code In Contest para sa mga kabataang estudyante na may kakayahan sa coding, design at open software.
Nakita niyo yun? Ganun siya kagaling. Diba? So, to welcome again, nandito na po siya, si Miss Irish Daniel. Okay. Hello, Miss Irish. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello. So, how are you feeling today?
Okay lang. Medyo
Um,
kabado.
medyo kabado. Gusto mo pa bang i-introduce ka pa ba sa sarili mo? Or pwede na kitang tanungin?
Ah, anong tanong?
So, simple lang naman. Ito lang ang tanong natin. What are you excited specifically to share to your younger fellow researchers in this discussion?
What I'm excited about and sharing to my researchers in this discussion is how much of a life changer robotics can be and how much of a life changer research can be once you really get into it. People usually think that robotics and research, they're like something that you do only as a part of school. But if you really see it as a hobby, it really changes the way that you look at life and it really changes your interests and your hobbies and all that stuff. Yun lang.
Alright, thank you. So, pwede ka na mag-share screen. Pwede ka na mag-proceed doon sa iyong discussion.
Okay. Kita niyo ba?
Di pa. Ayan na, kita na
Okay.
po.
Yan. So, hi, my name is Irish Daniel Morales, and this talk is entitled So You Want to Try Robotics. So, when a lot of people they see robotics competitions in malls or in outdoor places, they sort of stop and they just watch, even if they don't really know robotics or they don't know what's going on. And then they watch and then they have this reaction that's kind of like this. That looks pretty cool. And then they think for a bit, I wish I could do that too. I wish I could try robotics too because it just looks pretty cool. And then people start to think things like, but it looks expensive, which it does. Robotics is expensive. I'm going to admit that. And I've never done robotics before. Why should I do it now? I've never done anything related to this. Can I really do this? How does robotics even work? How do these robots even work? Well, this is a story of how I started robotics and how I basically began from having no background at all to joining all of these competitions and stuff. And hopefully, maybe you might try robotics. Even if you don't have any background like me, you might go into robotics thinking it's just pretty cool, and that's enough of a reason to join robotics. This was me in elementary. I'm the one wearing a doctor's costume. I always wanted to be a doctor. Both of my parents are in medicine, and I always thought that I would end up in medicine as well. And then somehow I ended up in robotics because of junior high and the robotics team. And how that started out was when I was grade 7. We had the final project. I can't draw very well. We had the final project, and it was a research subject. So we were supposed to turn in one of those papers that's 10 pages. It's one of those papers that are like 1 inch page margin, letter size paper, times New Roman 12, those kinds of research projects. And then I turned in mine with 2 pages. My final project was 2 pages, and it was double spaced because I was lazy. And I didn't know that there was a format, so I didn't follow the format, and I didn't research enough. And then my title was in word art. I used word art for the title, and then that word art title, every single letter word art title had a different color, and I turned that into my research advisor. And I got an 86 in research. That was the lowest grade I've ever gotten. And 85 and below is failing, as far as I know. So I almost failed research just by turning in this project, which I had no idea what the format was, and I didn't spend any time on it at all. And so the second quarter of grade 7 came, and then they gave another final project, just like that. And it was one of those projects again that were, 1 inch page margin. And I finally got the format right. This time I actually put effort into actually doing my final project. And this time I actually listened to the format. And, and so we got to the competition and we fixed it there. Within 2 hours, we fixed this robot that we made within 6 months and tried to fix it within 2 hours before the competition starts. As in, the other robotics teams, they were nice enough to give us their tools. So they gave us hammers so that we could hammer the body back into shape since it was very, very heavily dented. And then we bought tails. We bought paint, we bought nails, we bought screws. We painted the robot, we screwed it back together, we taped the hands. We couldn't do anything about the furnace lid, but we fixed the robot as much as we could. And then we repaired everything at the contest venue. And as you can see right now, it started to look like it did originally. And it came to the point that we fixed it so much that the judges, they actually asked the other teams if their robot was the one that fell. Because they knew that the robot fell. They didn't know it was ours. And we had to show them pictures and videos to prove that our robot did actually fall on the way to the competition. And so after that huge mess of this panicking and figuring out how we're going to fix this robot that we have, we competed anyway. We presented the robot and what it does in the Philippine Robotics Olympiad, and we placed fourth. We didn't win, we didn't get to the international level, but still, fourth place is a huge achievement, especially if your robot fell on the way to the competition and you have no idea what's going on and you fixed it within 2 hours. So that was how I entered robotics. How I entered robotics is when my research advisor approached me. But that, all of that, that's just luck. That was just me being lucky that I was approached and asked if I want to be on a team that does robotics already. But not everyone gets that opportunity to be lucky to go onto a robotics team. Some people, they'll have to start robotics from scratch. And the question is, how do you start robotics from scratch? Because not everyone will just be asked, do you want to do robotics? Other people will have to make a completely new robotics team because their school doesn't have one or because they've never touched a robot before in their life. And I did something similar to that too, but it wasn't exactly me, it was my teammates. In grade 9, that's me, we started a new robotics team with some of my batchmates. And it was a new robotics team because it was a different kind of robotics. We didn't do the robotics research that we had at first. What we were doing now were robot games. They weren't robotics research, they were robot games. And our advisors, our robotics coaches, you know them anyway, they're both registered nurses and they ended up as teachers. They are teaching science and research and all these other subjects. And they've never touched a robot before in their lives. So what we did, all of us who were new to robots and everything, what we did was we bought a pre-made SumoBot robot kit. As in just pre-made, the robot already comes with everything attached. It's already built when it comes to you. And we entered that SumoBot in competitions. This, for people who aren't aware, SumoBot competitions are kind of like this. So what's happening here is that the robots, they're trying to push each other off, just like Japanese games, you know, these big sumo people try to push each other off, and that's what in SumoBot too. And then when I entered that into my first competition, I figured out that it didn't meet the required weight. There's supposed to be a minimum of more than 1 kilogram, and my robot was like 0.90 or 0.80 kilograms. So I couldn't compete. I was already there. I paid the registration fee. I couldn't compete because I didn't meet the required weight and I didn't know that there was a required weight. So my robotics advisor and I, we had a bit of a, it was a terrible idea, but we had an idea. We had tools. We had pliers. we had screwdrivers, we had nails, and we had our screws. We didn't have weights, but we had our tools, and we weren't allowed to go outside of the competition venue. So we got this idea. What if we took our pliers and we put them inside of the robot so that I would meet the required weight? And so that's what we did. We put my pliers inside the robot, and then we entered that competition with my robot like that, and it met the required weight. And of course, this is a horrible idea. This is something you shouldn't do. This is something you should never ever do. Don't do this, and don't be like us, and don't just put robot stuff into other robots and go into competitions without knowing the rules, because that's what we did. Of course, we lost because my robot couldn't move properly because of the whole pliers inside thing. And at least from that, we sort of learned something. We learned, of course, not to put tools inside robots. And we learned about the required weights. We learned about how much weight matters in sumo bot competition so that you can push each other off the ring. And then this is the next competition that I joined. In this one, what's going on is that my robot is trying to move backward. Normally in sumo bot competitions, you're supposed to move forward and push the opponent robot out of the ring. You're supposed to want to find the robot. What I was doing here was that I was trying to move backward when the robot was in front, and I was trying to hit my opponent from the side. And this is like suicide for a robot because you can just move backward and keep moving backward and move out of the ring by yourself. So that's like killing your own robot, and it's like one of the worst possible person tactics you could do in a competition. And this program was so bad that global director of the global director of the International World Robot Games, they approached me and they asked me, why did you program your robot to be like that? Why did you program your robot to move backwards? Why did you program your robot to basically do something that would get it to lose the own game? And I I couldn't answer because I just made a huge mistake and I didn't know what I was doing then. I lost because of this exact program, even though I won in this video right here. This is the same program that led me to lose. And it was so bad that this hype person was asking me why I made that decision. And so I went and looked at other programs. I looked at this program, and what the yellow robot is trying to do here is that it's trying to swerve out of the way of the opponent. So what's going here is that it's going backward and going outward. I tried to copy that program. Then I looked at this program. It's a seek and destroy program. You basically find the other sumo bot, push them out of the ring. And then I tried to copy this program. And what just happened here is that it just moves out of the way and hopes that the opponent just falls off. And eventually, after a few months of just making mistakes, making a lot of stupid mistakes like this, putting pliers into my robot and making terrible programs, I finally won my first competition after, well, a few months. And this was in grade 9. So in grade 9, we were entirely new. We had no idea how these things work. And this is them now. You probably all know the robotics team of Cavite Science. And this is them now. This is them within 4 or 5 or 3 years. They've been places all over the world. They've been to Indonesia. They've been to Singapore. They've been to US, to China. They've been everywhere. And it all started with us having no idea what to do. So the thing about this is that we started from scratch, and yet we still got so far as a team together. And so if you're trying to get into robotics, the tips that I have for you are this. First of all, find a community, especially in school robotics teams, especially in Cavite Science. find the community first and find people that will do robotics with you because there's always so much more to learn and they'll motivate you to join competitions. They'll tell you about tips and tricks and stuff like that and watch robotics events. Know what people did wrong, know what people did right, and then try to copy that. Try to do what I did, learn from other programs, and start with robot kits. Although we all make our own robots now for the robotics team, we started with this robot that we just bought. It's pre-made and it was easy, and that's how we learned. And if you're starting to do robotics, especially if you're trying to do robotics without a team, that's how you might want to start. And the next, think about what kind of robotics you want to do. The first half of this talk was about robotics research. Robotics research are those big robots that have research papers and they solve real life issues. They're kind of like applied science in a way, but they're robotics. And the second kind are robot games, games that sort of hone your skills. Like the Sumobot competitions that I did, robot games hone your skills and you do them to have fun. Although they do have some real world applications, they're mostly called robot games because they're kind of like a sport in that way. So think about what kind of robotics you want to do and then try to pursue that robotics. But most of all, after all of those, the biggest tip if you want to try robotics is that you need to allow yourself to make mistakes. This entire talk was just me making mistakes. It was me making so many mistakes. At the first, it was me almost failing my research subject because I didn't listen to the format and I didn't do it well. And the second part was someone screwing up and someone allowing the robot to fall. We don't know. Maybe the driver went too fast, or maybe we forgot to secure our robot. Someone made a mistake there, and that's why it fell. And then the other mistake was me putting pliers into my robot, just trying to get away to get into the competition because I didn't know the rules and I didn't know that there was a required weight. I didn't read up before joining. And the last mistake was me making that horrible program that was so terrible that the international director approached me and asked, why would I do that? Why would I do this? And this entire thing, it's just mistakes. And I'm telling you about those mistakes because success is not a story. And it's pretty boring to just look at a person's resume and just see what they've done. Because these mistakes are the ones that you'll bring with you when they're done. These mistakes are the ones that make good stories, the ones that you can tell people about. And I am telling you these stories because I have so many mistakes. And this doesn't just apply to robotics. This applies to any field, whether it's sports or journalism, art, dancing, everything you do, whether it's music or everything you do, allow yourself to make mistakes. And in research, you also have a lot of mistakes and you'll also learn a lot. Like maybe in the Kahoot earlier, you made some mistakes, but that's where you might learn a few things. That's the things you will remember most. And so if you want to try anything, if you want to try anything at all, not just robotics, any field, any research subject, any hobby that you have, any interest, first allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, laugh at those mistakes, and remember them because when you're done, those are the stories that you'll be able to tell people. And those are the stories that you'll learn from and the stories that will allow you to become better at what you do. That's all. Thank you.